It's Hoge Jahns.
What's up? Welcome in. Hoge Jahns with you live on a Tuesday morning. Still grinding through some tape. It is ugly, but ready to turn the page a little bit here.
Aaron Rodgers got hurt.
Yeah. You seem
How
like
about
happy
that?
about that.
I'm not. Not as happy as Patrick Mahomes, apparently.
Yes, that was an unfortunate lack of a comma.
Yes, the importance of grammar.
Yeah. Commas can be important, and that was I saw that tweet. It was pretty funny.
Yes, I love how he corrected himself.
Yes. Well, you
Quickly.
needed to in that situation.
Go Bears.
Hate that man.
Okay, so what I learned from week 1, Aaron Rodgers is going to be the Bears quarterback next year.
He left his durability in Green Bay.
He's going to come back. Bears are going to move on, obviously. I mean, everybody on Monday is just done with Justin Fields, right? So move on. Bring in Rodgers.
Go Bears.
There you go.
Yeah.
It's done.
Isn't there like a great irony in that? Like literally this week at Hallis Haw, we were talking about the back and forth that Jay Cutler and Mark Potash had years ago.
Yes. Yes.
Where, to give everybody a brief scene on this, Mark Potash, our friend from the Chicago Sun-Times, essentially asked Jay Cutler one week, many years ago, if he was envious of the health, the good run of health that Aaron Rodgers has had in his career, because Jay Cutler had like everything. I think this was coming off like a groin injury in Washington. I'm sure things are blending together. But then weeks later, Aaron Rodgers gets hurt, and there's a question about Rodgers coming up during another press conference, and Jay Cutler stops mid-question, turns to Mark Potash, and goes, "I bet that surprised you, huh?" But seriously, like the guy had a great run of health with the Packers, 4 snaps into his Jets career, and has a serious Achilles tendon injury.
I mean, if you are believing in things that go beyond football, the run that the Packers have had with their quarterbacks, and then the bad luck that the Jets have had with their quarterbacks, and this is the second Hall of Fame quarterback to go from Green Bay to the Jets. It's a little weird.
Yeah.
It's a little weird to just have your Achilles pop on like the 4th snap. Everybody's blaming the turf again. It is new turf at MetLife Stadium, by the way.
You know what else I was thinking about? Was like Corey Wooten. Remember Corey Wooten ended Brett Favre's career?
Yep.
With that hit. Of course, Corey Wooten was with the Bears at that time. But it was Leonard Floyd, former Bear, former first-round pick for the Ryan Pace era, with the sack on Aaron Rodgers.
I noticed that. That was, I mean, there's a possibility that that's it. That'd be a terrible way for that career to end, though, I have to say.
Yes.
That would be very unfortunate. And quite frankly, as a football fan, I'm a little bummed. Because as much history as there is with Aaron Rodgers on this podcast and between the Bears and Packers, it was a fun story.
Yeah.
And I hate to break it to everyone. I think the Jets are on primetime television 5 more times this season. And now it's Zach Wilson.
Did you see how Aaron Rodgers took the field with the American flag, 9/11, all of that energy?
Uh-huh.
He does his little smoke dance with, why am I blanking on his name? The cornerback, the first-round pick. What's his name?
Sauce Gardner.
And the energy was outstanding. You saw that, and I'm like, oh, okay, that's pretty damn awesome.
Yeah. I saw going around on Twitter, someone had Aaron Rodgers full hot 2023 season highlights, and it was just him running out on the field with the flag.
Yeah.
That was it.
We don't mean to be laughing about this, but I am getting a chuckle out of the irony of the great durability he had in Green Bay. He leaves, and this is what happens.
I mean, it's sad for the Jets. What a game, though. And to end it on a punt return touchdown. Let's go.
Oh, gosh.
I love that. That was fun.
Special teams, baby.
Let's go. Let's go. All right. Well, welcome in. We are live on YouTube on this Tuesday morning. And, of course, welcome to everybody listening to the podcast later as well. You can follow us on Twitter at Hoge Jahns. Please do. We are up over 3,000 followers now. I think that means I got 3 more shirts we got to give out. A little delayed. It's been busy, but we will give those shirts out.
Get on it, man.
I know. Well, I'm still grinding through this awful offensive tape.
Why?
Because I grade every play. I always do this, and I got to get through it.
Just go.
Believe it or not, there's some good things in here. I just posted on Twitter an awesome clip of Roschon Johnson blocking.
Oh, that's fine. Was it late when they're playing catch up?
Early in the second quarter. When he was out there, and early in the second quarter, by the way.
I think our prediction of him being the Bears' #1 back is going to coming sooner than later.
Yeah, well, for drafting him in the last round of my fantasy league, 17.5 points in week 1. Now, a lot of that did come in kind of garbage time. And
Who cares?
Flus pointed that out yesterday that okay, the reason he ended up as RB1 with snap count was because the game was over, which is fair, but I think when the dust settles on all this, you're going to realize he was probably I'm not done yet, but he might have been the highest graded player.
Okay.
Yeah. So, you can also follow us at Adam Hoge, at Adam Johns, and Reed Johnsy in The Athletic. I know you have a story up on theathletic.com/Hogan Johns about how we are back to a very familiar place where we are trying to figure out, right, does the blame go to the offensive coordinator or to the quarterback? Speaking of Jay Cutler, I mean, time is a flat circle here covering the Bears.
It is.
It's unbelievable.
That's probably the most frustrating thing about covering this team. It is.
Pause for a second. Seriously. It's been over a decade of this. How many different head coaches, how many different offensive coordinators, how many different quarterbacks? For the love of God. It's unbelievable that we're just right back here again.
It's the offensive line play. So let me give you another visual from Hallisall from Soldier Field on Sunday. They introduced like 100 former Bears players, and some of the random players they had in there was like outstanding guys who've only been part of this team for 2-3 years, maybe even less than that. Brandon Marshall was a notable one, but J Webb Nation. Speaking of like offensive line play and players in the headlines, like Jamarcus Webb was one of the players introduced of the 100 they had out there.
Wait, where was this?
So they at halftime at Soldier Field,
yeah, because it was alumni weekend.
Yes,
they introduced Jamarcus Webb at halftime.
Yes, they did. Dustin Lyman.
That reminds me of the Bears 100 thing when they announced all 90 guys, and they're like, they like go from like Mitch Trubisky all the way to Clifton Duck.
Yeah, exactly.
You're like, okay, sure.
So that there was a Clifton Duck-like moment at halftime.
Oh.
Jamarcus Webb. Do you think, let me ask you this. Do you think we'll ever get to a Jay Cutler-like Jamarcus Webb-like scenario where the quarterback just has enough, bumps his guy, and everybody's talking about it? I think Justin Fields has a different personality, demeanor than Cutler would have in any given moment, but who knows?
Yeah, I don't see that happening. I would be very surprised. That doesn't seem like Justin Fields. Now, Justin's not afraid to tell the truth sometimes in his press conferences, though. That I could see happening. You know, getting brutally honest about whether it's protection or Chase Claypool's blocking. Holy crap.
Not good. Lack thereof.
Can I say something real quick about that Claypool montage of bad blocks that's been going around Twitter? Because sometimes things are pulled out of context. I don't think that was pulled out of context. I think that's fine. But what I wanted to point out was the thing that my first reaction seeing that video was something I said Sunday night when we did the post game. If that was your game plan, Why is Equanimous St. Brown not out there instead? Why are you asking Chase Claypool to do that? That's not his game. That's not why he's here. If this was your game plan, I do not understand the personnel. Like, I keep coming back to the personnel, which is something we talked about on our pregame show before this game ever kicked off on Sunday. I was already confused by it. So it's a bad look for Claypool. Absolutely. That's got to be better. But coaching is all about putting your players in the best positions to have success.
Well, one would still think that a 6'4", 235-pound receiver can handle a 5'10" defensive back.
In theory, yes. From everything we know about this guy since he got here, look, there's a clip out there if you want to go watch the film from the end zone angle where Tyler Scott gets inside the box and makes a great block on, I think it was an 11-yard run from Deontay Foreman. 11 yards. Go look. 12:34 on the clock in the second quarter. Both Roshan Johnson, Tyler Scott. Tyler Scott's what, half Chase Claypool's size? And he makes a great block, I think, on a safety coming down. So I'm totally on board. I'm not taking anything off of Claypool's shoulders there. Like, you're a giant wide receiver. Make a freaking block. Show some effort. But at the same time, what's EQ doing here? If you're not going to play him in a game plan like that, that's just what I'm wondering.
Yeah, not good. Not good. Blame game. Luke Getsy. It's his game plan signed off by Matt Eberflus, I assume, who's taken. I'm not going to use the John Fox reference here and coordinating all three, but I assume Flus has a role in all game planning as well.
What would you do with Claypool this week?
The coach in me would consider benching him if he has a bad practice, one bad practice. He doesn't respond well this week. Obviously, you issue the challenge, and if he doesn't respond well by Friday, you're considering benching him for EQ, especially if you're going down a similar path in game planning. We're going to use these quick screens and whatnot to get through the blitzes that Todd Bowles is going to throw at Justin Fields.
Yeah.
What would you do? You're a coach too.
Yeah, I would.
And that is a loud and clear message. And obviously there's some layered discussions there that go all the way up to the top of the Ryan polls. But
well, right, and that's what I was about to say is like this cannot just be a you get in the coaches meeting Monday morning, which we're already 24 hours removed of, and you go, hey, Tyke Tolbert, you got to get Claypool going. No, it's got to go beyond that. It can't just be you sit down the position coach. Like this is to me, it's a head coach, wide receiver, conversation. Got to be better. And we're going to watch you in practice this week, and I agree with you. And if it's not better, not out there.
Here's another question for you. What do you do with Nate Davis?
Yeah,
he allowed the most pressures. I think it was 7, according to our friends at True Media and Pro Football Focus.
Did they agree on that? Or are those the same?
Well, it's the same.
It's the same.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if I do agree with it. I'm not saying he played well, but I didn't count that many.
Wasn't good. Like, it's not surprising he wasn't good, though.
Right. Speaking of practicing, like, wasn't out there in practice on Thursday.
But in terms of, like, your philosophies at Hallis Hall, like, I think at the base of the HITS principles, it should be, like, active participation in the HITS principle.
Like, let's start with the basics. Playing football.
Getting on the field. Showing the hustle, the intensity.
I thought it was incredibly notable that Matt Eberflus made it very clear last Friday that Nate Davis had only missed one practice because of a personal issue. Did you pick up on that?
Was that his direct quote?
So, yes, he was asked. I'd have to go back and listen to the actual question, but it was like a follow-up question, which was basically like, How many practices has he missed because of a personal issue? And he said,
and
and
was
he
the
said,
question referring to like OTAs
yes,
all the way back.
yes, and he said one. He said basically he said Thursday's practice last week was the only one attributed to personal. Everything else was injury related. Which no one's ever given us an injury. Nate Davis didn't want to talk about it, right?
It's just it's a curious situation. We've covered this team long enough to know your radar should be up. There's more there.
Yeah. And I think the personal issue that's been vaguely mentioned, including by polls on our show, I think that was in reference to him not showing up for OTAs. And that might have been the case, which is fine. Again, that's voluntary. As I often point out, it's a little weird when a guy you just signed to a big contract doesn't show up for OTAs. Aaron Rodgers showed up to Jets OTAs. But it's voluntary. Whatever. For me, it's more so just the amount of time he missed in training camp. And like you just said, yeah, there's something going on there. I don't know. I'm looking at your glorious rundown, which I'll give you credit. Pretty detailed. Again, off to a great start. Johns is definitely 1-0 in the 2023 season.
Do you want me to run through these advanced stats before we get to the voicemails? I want to hear your thoughts.
Well, I was curious why this says press box food update.
It's better.
Yeah.
How much better? I don't know.
Well, you don't know? You ate it, didn't you?
Yeah. Well, like, I'm not a big press box salmon guy.
Oh, you didn't trust the salmon.
There was a lot of people who didn't trust the salmon. Like, people were suspicious. It took one or two people. Jason Leisure from the Sun-Times was like one of the first media members to try it. He gave the thumbs up. But you're worried about, like, the movie Airplane?
Yeah.
Salmon killed everybody.
Well, you almost lived that out on one cross-Atlantic flight.
Yes.
To London. You know what eats salmon? Bears.
They had like these Italian beef sliders.
Just ignored me. I love that.
Yes. They had like these Italian beef sliders that were more like Philly steak sandwiches.
Okay.
With like the cheese wasn't like provolone. It was like squeezed on there. Or very melted. They did have some hot peppers on there.
Liquid cheese.
Liquid cheese, yes. Like they would put on the Philly steak sandwiches.
Man, I might have to start polling the entire media crew here. So, because Herb Howard brought this up yesterday on CHGO, and he seemed pretty impressed.
Well, it was a low bar.
Well, yeah. Well, when you say low bar, I mean sometimes there's literally no food, which would be technically lower than bad food.
Yes, food existed. Food was present.
Yes.
The best thing they served was actually the pizza after the game. That's what shocked me. That there was pizza served after the game. Never in my history of covering this team for 12 years has there been food served by the Bears post-game. Nothing. Yesterday, Sunday, was the first time they had food present after the game.
Yeah.
That is the Kevin Warren effect.
Well, and to turn a somewhat silly conversation kind of serious, like there's just details in there that do matter. Kevin Warren's coming from US Bank Stadium, where I would put that right up there where it was SoFi and the Cowboys Stadium in terms of press box food and just the amount of it. I mean, and look, some of it's totally ridiculous. Like SoFi has a candy bar. I think the Cowboys do too.
Yeah.
And like, so that's
carving stations.
That's not necessary. Yeah, carving stations.
Don't say that.
The omelet station at US Bank Stadium. Yeah. So this really isn't about press box food. It's just about winds of change, right? And like just sometimes giving a shit,
here's
right?
the-
About
yes,
some of the
well,
small
well,
things.
I imagine if we're getting good food, the fans in the stands are getting good food. Soldier Field is not known for having good food in an amazing food city, is it?
I don't think it's known for having, and people can correct me if I'm wrong, because obviously I think a lot of our listeners and viewers are in the stadium more than we are and, on the concourse and stuff. But my experience there, when I've been there sitting for other events, concerts, college games, whatever, is long lines, not convenient, not good food, overpriced food, which I'm sure that didn't change. But what's a beer cost these days? $22?
Yeah. I mean, people are making fun of us in the comments, but these are little details I think you pick up on organizations as you go from town to town to town. Like Packers, better football organization. You know what? What they serve food wise is also better.
Yeah.
I don't think it's coincidence.
No, I think it's some, and we don't have to go into it more than that, but it's just kind of a small thing.
Well, here's
It's
another thing
noticeable.
too. Like the player survey that the union put out, right? How the Bears graded out so lowly, like on that family experience
Yeah.
for players' families. So Sunday, that was different as well.
Good.
They couldn't physically expand the room itself for they have the families for players afterwards, but they created another area, albeit in the corridors, the tunnels of Soldier Field, where there was more space for families to sit at tables, where they could have food and not be crowded in that hot room, that small hot room where they had like a little basketball net for the kids. So they're trying, given their own limitations. You know what it reminded me of? Like when you cover the Stanley Cup Finals and like they would set up like media rooms behind like curtains and like hallways of stadiums. Remember that at the United Center?
Yeah.
They kind of had that set up for family and friends of players. So obviously the Bears saw something that report. They're trying to change it. They can only do so much at Soldier Field, but these are little things that add up, little changes that you're starting to see.
Yeah, and I think there's more coming. I gradually. Kevin Warren's still just trying to get his, understanding and getting feedback from everybody in the organization, which is a real thing, by the way. Like I've talked to people in the organization. He is getting real feedback, and I think there will be more details like that are changed.
I mean, do you think he likes being part of an organization that's like a running joke about certain things? Like the press box food is a running joke, not just here.
No, nationally.
Nationally, yes.
I said that yesterday on CHGO. It's really not about us. It's about the reputation you get around the league.
The perception of the league, yes.
It's about the heavy hitters and the Fox crew that comes in. Joe Buck comes in for a game with ESPN and they're laughing at what the food is, and like they usually I think get their own stuff provided.
The executives of other teams that are up there in the press box.
Yes,
It's Soldier Field too, who eat that food and laugh at the Bears.
Mm-hmm.
It's perception.
Do you know at US Bank Stadium though they purposely make the owner? So every team is required to provide the opposing team a suite for their owner, no matter what game you're at in the NFL. That's a rule mandated by the NFL. So at US Bank Stadium, they make the owner suite for the opposing owner is purposely put where they have to walk through the concourse. It's a suite level, but they still have to walk on the concourse through the fans and everything. Now, for George, he's used to that, so I don't think that's a big
sits
deal.
amongst the fans at Soldier Field. Yeah.
But the other thing they do in there, by the way, is every week they change this giant photograph that's in there to a picture specifically, like it could be Eric Kendricks sacking Justin Fields or something.
Oh, wow. So like the actual photograph on the wall in the owner's suite will change based off opponent.
Based on who they're playing.
Oh, that's a nice.
So I was in there this
Subtle.
summer. My son and I took a tour. That's how I know this. And we were in that suite, and still hanging on the wall was the one they had hung in there from the Giants playoff game which was a Vikings player sacking Daniel Jones, I think.
Yeah.
Or tackling Saquon Barkley. I forget, but it was, yeah. Just a little subtle message they put in there that I think is kind of cool. Of course, the Vikings lost that game, so
Still, but it's the details. Sometimes it's the details, just like with a football team on the field. It's the details.
So but seriously, that's the details. So you know, it could be press box food, or it could be like a picture hanging in the opposing owner's suite. And I don't know if that's a new thing or if that was started with the stadium when Kevin Warren was still there in Minnesota, but just something to think about.
All right, before we move on to something more serious then, the pizza was the best, the chicken was second, the beef sliders were third, and I didn't touch the salmon. I had one bite of it. It was dry, and I'm like, no way.
Just the fact that you listed all that stuff off, though. Like, the last time I was in there, it was
box lunches.
It was muffin in a wrapper, a sealed wrapper. Then it was like hot dogs at halftime, provided by John Fox in the hot dog laden press box. And then nothing post game. You know what used to always drive me crazy? It's one thing to not have food up there, which almost every other stadium does at post game, by the way. They would turn the coffee machine off. You'd be there at a night game at like 1 a.m. or midnight just trying to like still file a story or get the podcast posted or whatever. And like you couldn't get coffee by the time we got back up from the locker room.
We've had experiences in the press box where security tries to kick you out.
Yeah.
Like within an hour after the game because they were told to. And obviously that was incorrect information. But we've had all sorts of different experiences in the Soldier Field press boxes over the years where the lack of communication is present.
And by the way, a lot of that is not even on the Bears. It's part of why they're frustrated with Soldier Field. It's not having full control over the stadium, not having full control over the food at all times. But as I think maybe Kevin Warren or whoever's to take credit for the food situation Sunday, you can override certain things if you have enough power, right? I once got locked in MetLife Stadium. That was fun.
Well, that one is a tricky one to get out of.
Yeah, there's like the gates around on the outside,
Yeah.
and like the thing was locked, and you couldn't get out. I don't even remember how I got out.
All right, let me read you some advanced stats.
Yeah, let's do this.
Voicemails. All right, number one. The Packers' defense was in zone coverage on 94% of its snaps against quarterback Justin Fields. Green Bay played man coverage on only one play. This is all from True Media, everything I'm about to read to you. Your thoughts,
Great
Adam?
game plan.
Yeah.
I don't know why anyone would play man against Justin Fields right now. Why would you? You turn in your back, you're running downfield. In fact, I don't know if it's I'd have to go back and look. I'm trying to picture the one play where they played man. It might have been that first play on the screen to Khalil Herbert because both of those corners were running downfield with DJ Moore and Darnell Mooney. Now, that might have been their zone responsibilities to pick them up, but that might have been the one play.
Keep talking. I'll look it up for you.
Yeah. I'm just trying to picture the film in my head, and that was a play where part of why the screen worked out is they ran Mooney around. They ran both guys deep. Both guys had both DBs had their back turned. They ran downfield, and so there was all that open space to dump it off to Khalil Herbert on the screenplay. And that was one play I gave Nate Davis credit for. Lucas Patrick made the block downfield, but Nate Davis was down there too.
Actually, they have the man coverage in the fourth quarter.
Okay. Well, again, that might have been even when you're in zone, you have to pick up.
Right. Eventually, it looks like man if you're in it long enough. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, if you're trying to negate Justin Fields' legs, playing zone defense, and they blitz the hell out of him too, I believe, out of the zone cover.
Here's the next one. The Packers defense also went after Fields. He was blitzed on 31.3% of his dropbacks. Green Bay totaled 26 pressures on Fields, or 54.2% of his total dropbacks.
Yeah, and they came from everywhere. Linebackers. You saw Jair Alexander blitz.
Fields got out of that one.
Yep. That was the play that I highlighted, Roshan Johnson blocking all the way downfield.
Like, this is going to be a thing until the Bears prove otherwise, is it not?
Well, there's good and bad news. The bad news is you're playing the Bucs and Todd Bowles, and the blitzing not going to stop this
We
week.
could do the same thing.
Yeah. The good news is you're going to be ready for it now. Coaches make corrections based on the last week's game, and I mean, I hope they have a game plan for this now. So now they're more likely to play more man, but again, I don't know if I would if I were the Bucs.
So you hear all these stats in your, at least the second one, you're like, holy moly, the Bears' offensive line is bad, right? You sacked 4 times, but I would say, and True Media and Pro Football Focus agree with me, that 2 of the sacks on Justin Fields, including the first one by Lucas Van Ness, local kid from
Barrington.
Very good. That one is on Justin Fields. Matty Eberflus said himself immediately afterwards that Justin Fields came up to him and said, "That's on me."
Oh, I call that I call those the Mitch Trubisky sack. It wasn't full Mitch, where Mitch would just run out of bounds on his own, but that's basically where Justin was headed on that play anyway. He got tackled out of bounds.
God, I would almost say getting tossed out of bounds. Like, that might be worse because you take a brutal hit.
Throw the ball away.
That one is on Fields.
You said there's another one too?
Well, I think he ran into a sack as well.
Yeah. Well, and there was also another hit. Okay, you know the play where he got hit and there was a scrum on the sideline?
Yeah.
I mean, Roshan Johnson's wide open for a dump off there. It's just an unnecessary hit. I don't get it.
So this is what I want to get to. Matt Bowen, I think, was the first one from ESPN, friend of the show. He started seeing it almost initially on the All-22, right? That there's open throws, regardless of how bad the offensive line got. I think early in the game, the first half, when you're seeing this high completion percentage from Justin Fields, like 9 for 10, 9 for 11, and he's hitting checkdowns. He's hitting checkdowns because there's protection. But there are open shots down the field that you see showing up on film where Fields should see them as well. I mean, you went through the film. They're there, right?
100%. Mooney downfield. Was the Bowen one, was that Mooney or Moore? I'm forgetting now. Regardless. It was Mooney on the sail. That's what it was. Mooney on the sail route. And he checks it down to Herbert. And I think they picked up 11 yards or something on the play. It was fine, but it's like, it's a shot downfield. You got to take, and great protection.
Yeah. There's one where Cole Kmet's wide open in the middle of the field, too. With good protection. So if you're going to fairly evaluate that game, this has to be part of the conversation as well.
All right, what's the third stat you have here?
Third stat. Ready? This is on the defense. The Bears' defense, on the other hand, generated only 6 pressures on Packers quarterback Jordan Love. He was blitzed on only 16.7% of his dropbacks. Sounds like a lot, but it wasn't a lot because not back that much.
Well, the second part doesn't surprise me. I mean, I just don't think there's going to be a lot of blitzing out of this defense. It's not
Not what they do.
It's not what they do. You still want to get pressure, though. And I think that's among the top things that are most concerning. Not even concerning, disappointing. All these months and months that we've been, going through the offseason, the money that was spent, the players that were drafted. And it's the same story. It's questions about the protection up front and how good the offensive line is and the lack of pressure that the defensive line created. I think they were bad. I think there's signs of improvement against the run. I like Andrew Billings in the middle there. But when it's 3rd and long, can you create pressure? 3rd and long, it's a passing down. This is what they talk about. Earn the right to rush the passer. You have to stop the run first. The Bears did that. They got Jordan Love in third down, and he was 8 for 10, I believe, on third and fourth down for like 141 yards and 2 touchdowns.
He was good.
But he had all year to throw the ball.
He did.
You have to create pressure on those money downs.
Here's the thing. Like, at the end of the day, I wasn't surprised by it. No matter what they said about Ngakoue and Walker being ready, we didn't see a lot of them in the preseason. We didn't see a lot of them in training camp. They just didn't play. Walker had his calf injury. Ngakoue was signed late. Like, you weren't surprised, but knowing that they weren't fully ready, at least I would expect them not to be fully ready, right? I would expect something a bit differently, especially against a quarterback, Jordan Love. Like, put the pressure on him. Make him feel antsy in the pocket. Show him some different looks. His first start for the Packers where he's the guy. Make his life hell. Make it confusing for him. It wasn't. It wasn't enough.
Did you see the throw that Love made where he's looking like kind of to the right hash and he moves Tremaine Edmonds
With his eyes?
with his eyes to the right, and he basically, it's almost a Mahomes no look because he's
Oh, don't say that.
no, but it is. I don't think it's a full no look because I think his eyes were still moving with the receiver across the field. But if you look at his helmet, because you can see it with like the stripe on his helmet, which way he's looking, like which way his helmet's facing at least. He throws across kind of like this and zips one on the money. It's pretty impressive, I have to say.
Well, you could do things when you have time like that.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, should we get to voicemails?
Let's do it.
I'm pretty excited about this.
Earmuffs.
So our voicemails, if you are a new listener, we do these every game. The voicemail line is open. They are consistently fun, recurring characters, contributors, and we never listen to these ahead of time. Only Kent, our producer, he puts them together, so we don't know what's coming. It's always a fun surprise for us as well. Here are your voicemails from yet another bad Bears-Packers game.
Hello?
Do you know who this is?
Oh, you didn't know? Your ass better call somebody!
The Hoge Jahns voicemail. The Hoge Jahns voicemail line.
Believe it or not, George isn't at home. Please leave a message at the beep.
Got any questions or comments about the Bears? Give the guys a call before, after, or even during the game.
Go Bears!
Hello, Hoge Captain Johnson. Bob the Broskis here calling in from Soldiers Field's parking lot. It's about 4:32 in the morning. Game day, boys, we're here. I'm getting ready. I'm about as ready as you can possibly be. I got about a baker's dozen old styles down in me, a baker's dozen Italian sausages, a baker's dozen Polish sausages, and about 13 whiskey cokes. I'm ready to rock. I'm ready to roll. I'm ready to put the dirt on top of the Green Bay Packers, the grave. It's very rare that you get to start the season with the Super Bowl, but that's what we got here. We got the Bears in the Super Bowl against the Packers, Week 1. Let's go. Packers are dead. Love sucks. Packers suck. Green Bay suck. Let's go. We're going to get there. Let's go Bears. Bear down. Chicago Bears. Bear down.
You gotta give DJ 50-50 chances. You can't just scream past your way into oblivion. Throw the ball to the number one receiver, which was our major prize in this trade, and stop making it look like it's 2019.
I think Kevin Fishbane said it perfectly. No more screen passes. And the one that they didn't do a screen on was successful. What's going on here, guys? Bear down.
The Packers have one good player that this defense had to key in on, and he's running and catching passes all over the damn field. I'm so sick of this team, and we're not even through the third quarter. I don't know if they're still preaching the hits principle, but this is not that, and I'm honestly a little concerned that might not be showing up ever again.
Horrible. Turn it off already. And tank for Caleb Williams. It's over. It's over.
I've been a Bears fan for 45 years. This team.
I'm depressed. That's it. I'm speechless.
I just have to say the Chicago Bears are no longer a football team, and I'm not sure that they have been over the past 2 decades, but an entertainment team. It's clear. It's very clear that there's no intention to actually win games.
This is a worse team than last year, and I can't believe I'm saying that.
This is one of those games where I just want to turn off the TV and sit in a dark room, but my fandom won't allow it. I feel like throwing up.
Yeah, listen, I don't want to overreact, but they don't even have their starting receiver.
I was mad until I just saw Roshan Johnson run over Rudy Ford.
So, same old Bears?
How am I feeling? I'm feeling like we're still the Bears.
All I gotta say is maybe it's time to see Tyson Bagent.
I got a Hoge and Johnsy take here. Just want to remind everybody that this defense has 14 new players on the entire unit. They have 3 new offensive linemen, depending on how you count. So it looked bad, but it's going to take time to come together. So let's see how they look against the Bucs next week. If it looks this bad, then we can freak out. But for now, everybody just chill.
Oh, a little optimism there at the end. The endless Bears optimism.
Well, that was like it is week 1, right? But this felt like maybe I was wrong in trying to sell it as just a week 1 game, because week 1 could be crazy. I was that guy, but like
in the context of the whole season, that's still an argument.
Yes.
I just think that Packer week is a different conversation.
And I also didn't expect them to get beat down like this.
Right, that was bad.
I picked them to win.
I didn't. I had the Packers winning.
Did you really?
No,
no. Liar.
You were on the show with me.
Yes, I was going to say. Don't change your
research.
No, I had the Bears winning by 10. Whoopsie.
Yeah.
No, look. I am 100%. That last call, that last voicemail was completely fair. The Lions went 1-6 last year to start the year, and they were in a similar spot as an organization, as a roster, where they had a lot of guys, a lot of new guys, a lot of pieces that had to come together. And as the season went along, they figured it out, and it took some good coaching. But I think that's why I keep coming back to the coaching part of this game. But that, I guess.
See, those are different situations, though. You had a quarterback, most important position in sports, hardest to get right, who had his second opportunity, was traded away, was highly motivated, had a lot of success in L.A., highly motivated. Jared Goff, this was his second chance. Here, Justin Fields is everything. Unfairly, in a sense, this is it. Right?
Yeah.
You got to figure out what's next for him. It is a long year. There's 16 games left. I get that, but this was not a good start. Not a good start for that conversation.
Do you know what happened on October 24th, 2022?
October 24th, 2022. No, I can't remember yesterday.
Well, October 24th, 2022 was the last time the Chicago Bears won a football game.
Oh, boy.
And I just think at some point, the idea of learning how to win is something that this team is going to have to figure out. It's been almost 11 months since you last won a game. And as we kind of transition this conversation now to week 2, in a beatable Bucs team, but certainly not a pushover. They proved that in week 1, going into Minnesota and winning. You don't get a win this week, you're playing the Chiefs in week 3. Then you got the Broncos coming to your place in week 4. And if you don't have a win by that point, you're now into October. So they're just starting to add up. It's been a long time since this team won a football. Since these coaches walked into a meeting on Monday morning with a win.
Learning how to win is it's an organizational thing. Then it's like a head coach thing, and then it's like a quarterback thing, is it not?
Yeah.
Like win and loss records get attributed to head coaches and quarterbacks. Fair or not, that's how this business works, and they know it.
Thinking about something that Josh Lucas said on the show a couple weeks ago, and about his belief that Justin Fields has the ability to kind of weather the storm here in this market. But I think that's a little different from this kid's never been through losing before in his life. And that's all he's experienced since he's gotten here. His record is horrible. And it's not all on him by any means. But it is his record.
What is it, 5 wins?
At 5 and
26 or something like that?
I mean, again, it's not fair for that to be his record, but it is what he's experienced. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I'm talking about. He's been through all this losing, and at some point, you got to dig out of it.
Here's where the further context is needed. This is where it becomes such. This is that's an organizational record. First year in the league, right? Caught up in the Nagy Trubisky mess, right? He's still caught up in that. Like, that's his first year in the NFL. Andy Dalton is here. That's the offensive coordinator's guy, right? Bears draft Justin Fields. That's like their hope for the future to stick around. Didn't work out. That whole first year was a mess. Last year, rebuilding season under Ryan Poles. Everybody's out. Best players traded during the season. Got worse as the season went. He got better. Luke Getsy found some answers. You saw some hope with his legs. Some big plays with his arm. They were there. Still a bad team. No receiver help. Year 2 with all these different receivers. DJ Moore, Chase Claypool, Luke Getsy, year 2. It's supposed to be different. It's supposed to feel different. But at the end of the day, like, organizationally, the quarterback, the GM, and the head coach have never aligned, and it's still the same. Still the same. Like, we're still caught up in that mess.
What's scary to think about is Fields would have to, like, basically have 3 years of, like, almost nothing but wins just to get back to 500, which was once the benchmark that Phil Emery gave for giving Jay Cutler a long extension, which was obviously a flawed metric,
obviously,
to decide right. So but, I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying, like, that's unfortunate. It's 100% not all his fault by any means. He's in a terrible situation, but
see, that's like with the Packers lost. That's the worst thing, the most terrible thing out of all this is how much it reminds you of how much the Bears have just effed things up in the past to reach this point again.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a lot of time for Ryan Poles and Matty Eberflus to dig themselves out of this mess. But sometimes this mess, it's not even their making. You know, there's still a lot of residual things to get out of.
I don't think they're as bad as what they showed Sunday.
That includes the defense?
The defense was disappointing, but there were some subtle signs of improvement. Not having Kyler Gordon here could be a problem, though.
Yeah, that stinks.
And from what I've heard, I don't think he's going to be playing this week.
Yeah, not good. It's never good when they're ruled out right away. When players are ruled out right away.
Yeah. Like Rodgers last night.
Right.
Go Bears.
All right, briefly, want to look ahead?
Yeah.
All right.
It's going to be a victory on Sunday.
the Buccaneers, they beat the Vikings on the road, 20-17. Guess what? The Buccaneers, they blitzed.
Yeah.
And played a ton of zone on Kirk Cousins.
Yes.
A ton. So get ready for something familiar or similar to what the Packers did. But Kirk Cousins, he was 33 for 44. 344 passing yards, 2 TDs, 1 interception, sacked twice, 102.8 passer rating. They didn't run the ball really well. 17 for 41 yards, 17 attempts, 41 yards. Somehow the Buccaneers got it done. Vikings were 1 for 3 in the red zone. Not good. Not good enough.
I have not had a chance to go watch this game yet. I will by the time we obviously preview this on Thursday. But from the glimpses I was seeing and some of the highlights and things that were popping up on Red Zone during this game, Cousins looked bad. So explain yourself.
The final stat line, I'll take it. Zone coverage, here's the exact numbers. All right, since this is going to be a trend against Justin Fields. The Buccaneers were in zone coverage 85.7% of the time against Kirk Cousins.
Wow. And if I'm game planning this week, I'm expecting the same thing. Why would you play man? If they did that against Cousins, why would they change it up against Fields?
Right.
Find solutions.
If it worked, why change it?
Yeah.
Make them change it. Make the Bears change it. I'm trying to find the blitz percentage for you.
Is it too drastic to just... Is this one of those... Are we overreacting with Roschon Johnson, or is this like seriously just... He might be your best running back. Just use him more.
I don't think we're overreacting. Because I think we saw glimpses of that in the preseason. And training camp.
But this, this feels like one of those things where everyone can see it. So just lean into it. Just like everyone can see what's going on with Claypool. Like, don't make it more complicated than it needs to be. Yes, you gave up a high pick for him. So what? Yes, Roschon's only a 4th-round pick. So what? Khalil Herbert's been here. Fine. Play the best players. Don't play the players that aren't helping you.
How about throwing the screens to Chase Claypool? That would seemingly be, big.
Well, they tried that one time, and it got tipped, and they didn't hang on to it.
It's true.
But if you watch the All-22, there's like, I think there's 12 guys on the Packers defense flooding right to that screen. I mean, that's the other part of this. Like, it was so predictable. I don't know how many of those would have worked out anyway.
Can I read you a quote from David Walker, the Bears running backs coach, from August 23rd? This is on Roschon Johnson. We try to play physical style football on our offense, whether it's our offensive line, our backs, or our receivers. So he plays in the style that we want here in Chicago. We would like to be violent with the ball in our hands as we attack people. We've shown that ability.
Okay.
He's shown that ability, we should say, but he said we.
Yeah. All right. Well, we will be back Thursday to break down this game against the Bucs and turn the page. We'll hear from Justin Fields tomorrow at Hallis Halls. We record this on Tuesday. He will talk Wednesday. We'll hear from Matt Eberflus. And very curious to see how this team responds this week. Very, very curious. Important times at Hallis Hall. I know it was just 1 week, but coming off of what they experienced last year, all the hype going into this season, this game, to come out that flat, to get beat down that badly by your rival, it's going to be a very, very interesting week inside the walls of Hallis Hall.
Yeah, and I'm telling you, interesting things can happen down in Tampa. It's going to be hot, humid. Be a lot of Bears fans there, and with the way they play, especially defensively, like things can go sideways fast.
You know, who I always think about every time the Bears go to Tampa?
Who's that?
I think we got to come out hard and stay hard.
He had a big game there, didn't he?
HJQ. He had a huge game there.
It's funny. I mentioned in the last podcast, I think of Polisiki.
Polisiki. The rugby player.
Forever changed Kyle Long's.
Yeah, that was nasty.
Course.
Yeah. All right. Well, follow us on Twitter at Hoge Jahns. Go to HoganJahns.com for all of our merch. It's up there. If you haven't seen them, there's new hats. The hats are great. The polos are up there.
The JD hoodies are back, I hear, too.
Yes.
I need to get myself in there.
How'd you hear that so quickly?
Joe put it on Twitter.
Oh, he did? Okay. Okay, good. Yeah. Now, there's a group of neighbors that do a tailgate for Bears game, and they're planning it in a couple weeks, and they're hoping to restock on the JD stuff. So, and Joe, because he's amazing at Obvious Shirts, was like, yeah, no problem. And so you can find those also. You have to go to obviousshirts.com for those ones, obviousshirts.com. Of course, everything on hoganjohns.com is powered by Obvious Shirts. But those are all up there if you want to restock on that. That's what Johns is wearing right now, the JD shirt. And what else am I missing? Johns' coverage in The Athletic. I got grades coming your way. I've been a little bit delayed getting through this film. Happy birthday to my wife. It was her birthday yesterday.
You're blaming your wife.
No, I was saying happy birthday to her.
I don't know if that movie's going to work.
I'm saying happy birthday to her. I'm not blaming her.
No, you blamed her.
But when I did shut it down around 4 o'clock on a Bears Monday because I love her very much.
Oh, okay.
And I actually did not watch most of that Monday night game because I was hanging out with her.
Happy birthday, Chris.
I actually did not know until this morning when I woke up that that game ended on a punt return TD. So if anyone was wondering why I didn't tweet at the end of that game, that's why. Hashtag special teams.
You love it.
All right. We'll see you Thursday. Enjoy the next couple days. Try to smile a little bit, Bears fans.
See ya.